In 2015, the New York Times estimated that some 5 million Americans belong to one or more book clubs. In popular culture, they've been mostly seen as a woman's pursuit.
And that seems to be replicated across the board, not just in America. And I'm not just talking about my own book club, which led me to ask the question, but when I realized that the book club's platform that I'm using, over 90% are women. So I set out to ask the question, well, why don't men join book clubs in larger numbers? And here's what I found. So I'm going to share my insights in this video. I've got my paperwork here, so I'm going to go through it all one by one right here on my clipboard. Stay tuned. Hi guys, Calvin again. Back for another Thursday video. I'm delighted to be able to share some insights with you to that question. Why don't more men join book clubs? I know the title says, why don't men join book clubs? But I got you here. And some men obviously do join book clubs. Now, obviously, there's always a balancing act between things. You could argue things one way, you could argue things another way. But I set out to ask people this. I asked on social media, I shared a Google Forms, and I didn't get a huge amount of responses. So I'm just going to preface this by saying we probably had about 20 to 25 men answer this question, but at least it gave me a bit of an insight, and you can make up your own mind for yourself as to whether any of this resonates. So the first thing I've got on the list here is men find it unproductive. We have this idea of we got to produce more, we got to have something to show. And actually, I am pretty guilty of that myself. And I'm constantly bringing myself back into balance. Sometimes I have to get out into the forest. Sometimes I need to go on retreat. Sometimes I just need to stop, because we can get into perpetual cycles of productivity and doing. Of course, in mindfulness, we talk about non-striving. Sometimes just allowing ourselves, as John Kabat-Zinn says, to be right where we are. So productivity and this drive for incessant productivity is one of the reasons why a lot of men probably don't even consider joining book clubs, but also they see it as a waste of time. If that resonates with you, leave a comment below, let me know. Or even so, leave a comment below to tell me why you, if you're a man, aren't in a book club, assuming that you aren't. The second thing I've got on here, lack of awareness. Well, that's an easy one. That's just raising the profile of book clubs. Lack of awareness. A few people have come back and said, I didn't even know that there were book clubs out there that men could join. I didn't even know it was a thing for me. There's a perception that book clubs are for women, and even older women, even in some cases. And obviously that's not universally true. There are a lot of book clubs explicitly and exclusively targeted to men. And then there's some where they're both men, women, and everybody's welcome, right? But not everybody joins. More women join than men. And that is still a really perplexing thing. The other thing we've got here on my clipboard of answers, flying solo. I put flying solo like that because, you know, there was some feedback around not doing what other people we see doing. So in other words, if I'm part of a group of men and I like to hang out and we like to go to the pub and we like to play football or whatever, they're not joining book clubs. So why would I join a book club, right? So there's this idea of doing what everybody else does, keeping up with the Joneses. But also, of course, there is this idea that we don't need a community. We can do it ourselves. I'm a man. I can just do whatever I need to do all on my own, and I have my sovereignty. And you know, if you if you pay attention to my videos, you will know I am all for sovereignty, but I am also all for community. So this is why I say there is a balance to be struck here. But this is something that came back, and I'm interpreting this response as some people feeling that they can just go it alone and do it all on their own. The other thing, and this was featuring looming large in the answers, vulnerability. You know, men are afraid to open up. They're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of maybe even sometimes sharing their own opinions on topics that might relate to their emotions or their feelings. And of course, we know I talk about vulnerability as well, that being vulnerable decreases your vulnerability, and hence as I call it the paradox of vulnerability. If you want to see my talk on that, just click the link above. But vulnerability is, or the ability to be vulnerable, embracing that idea of vulnerability causes some men to want to avoid joining book clubs. And to emphasize the point, here's something I got from my social media requests for feedback on this question, and I'll read it verbatim. That is the challenge we as men must overcome. Most men are comfortable reading books about making money, sports, politics, or world events. Unfortunately, too many men are uncomfortable reading books about personal development. It's a result of male cultural conditioning. We are comfortable reading books that challenge us to think, but we are uncomfortable reading books that teach us how to feel. I might take the liberty at this point of telling you about my own recently released novel called The Sun Rises in Eastmore, about a man in his 30s at an emotional dead end who has to go through a journey of transformation. But enough about plugging my own material. Back to the subject at hand. So there are some of the key reasons that I wanted to share with you, and why it's really great to highlight that, some of the reasons why men don't join book clubs. But one of the really interesting things, which seems to encapsulate all of this, and somebody said in the forum when they replied, they just said one word: ego.
You're enlightened, but some guys might be a little wary. Make it easier for them by naming your club that reads books something that shows it's for tough guys. Call your club, for example, the Literary Domination Society.
This idea of self-image, and as I mentioned in previous videos, the ego, contrary to a lot of popular vernacular, is not the enemy, although we do know that the ego itself can constrain and limit our development, right? And this is why I found it so interesting in this PBS video that this man should call a book club the Literary Domination Society. Systems of dominance is a way of operating in the world that we need to transcend. Similarly, as we need to transcend the ego, then we also need to transcend this mode of operation. When one happens, then the other will automatically be realized. Ego's transcendence, I would like to think, will yield more fairer, equitable societies where there's a sense of equality and common good. So I think that encapsulates some of the challenges that we as men are facing when it comes to joining the book clubs, when it comes to being more vulnerable, our incessant obsession with productivity, our ideas of independence and sovereignty, meaning we don't need anyone else, and lack of awareness of book clubs where men can join, which is probably the easiest problem of all, or easiest obstacles of all to surmount. But stay tuned for my next video, because actually I want to explore the benefits of men joining book clubs and why it's actually helpful for us as men to do that, to share in community. And I'll give you one hint or one clue, and I think one of those is self-awareness, because through our peer-to-peer reflective exploration of the books and the themes that we encounter, we develop new learnings and perspectives which help us to grow. But there are a number of other benefits I'm going to share, so stay tuned for my next video. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye for now. What is most meaningful for you in 2022? Is it healing and forgiveness? Is it love and belonging? Or maybe it's the courage to be and to act. Soar Book Club has all of this for you. If you want to read more and need accountability to keep you moving forward in your already busy life, are you looking for inspiration to develop your spiritual awareness? Maybe you want to be part of a positive community during these uncertain times, or connect with like-minded people who love stories and books. Then join SOAR Book Club. Hop on board. The train is about to leave the station, and I would love to have you on the journey with me. So click the link below to join. That's SOAR Book Club with me, Calvin Niles. I hope to see you there.